Hello, my name is Derek Young. I'm the president of YMG Enterprises, and I'm very excited that you've joined us for the C-Seat. The C-Seat is an interview program where we talk with top leaders from corporate, government, nonprofit, and religious organizations to get their insight, their perspectives on what it takes to create and even sustain a winning culture. We think culture is so important that we want to get the time and the perspective from these leaders and offer it to you. I'm glad to be interviewing here today on the campus of Trevecca Nazarene University. Trevecca is a Christian university here in the heart of Nashville. And specifically, we're working with their Masters of Organizational Leadership program, where their goal is to help their students be prepared to be not only effective, but to be successful in the work world. Today, I am interviewing someone that I have known for many years, someone I greatly admire, is really a leader, and more than that, even a legend in the banking industry, and that's Mr. Ron Samuels.
Hello, Derek.
How are you?
Great, glad to be here.
Great. Now,
legend got me.
Legend got you. Well, here's, I got to start
Yeah.
with the success of Mississippi in
Oh,
football.
my gosh.
We got to start there.
Well, it was a little rough on us this weekend with LSU, but
That was tough, yeah.
Very proud of Ole Miss and the whole state of Mississippi. It's kind of changed things here.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. Ron, you've been in the banking world for a while, and obviously the banking culture, the banking system is something we're all familiar with. What, for you, just generally speaking, are some of the keys to developing a great culture in a banking organization?
I'm sure everybody's different, but there's 4 or 5 things that are really important. And first of all is attitude. Mm-hmm. I think attitude about the leadership at the top level has to be passionate about the success and happiness of the workforce. And we didn't think about that a lot years ago, but attitude is everything. Mm-hmm. And so everything starts at the top, but being able to communicate.
Right.
First, to engage people, and I think engagement is one of the top priorities for any culture.
Sure.
Is to be able to engage, you've got to have a vision that people see,
right.
That it's clear, and that they're bought into. Mm-hmm. And then, must have respect for all employees.
Right.
Must have inclusion, diversity. Mm-hmm. You've got to create an environment where people are comfortable to challenge the status quo, to respect each other's opinions. And then another key for me has always been having fun.
Right.
And you don't think about that in banks.
Right.
But, I think today to engage employees, you have to have a little fun. You got to take off a little time.
Sure.
At our shop at Avenue, we take Frozen Fridays, for instance.
Frozen Fridays.
Frozen Friday, we have an ice cream truck come up and spend about 15, 20 minutes. Anybody can go out there. Sometimes we have our neighbors over at the Frisk Center join us. But,
awesome.
It's those little unexpected things that kind of create that environment that, make people feel better about where they work. That's
awesome. So it really sounds like what you're saying is the central key to ensuring your culture is rich is really having an ongoing commitment to the people is really what I feel like I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely. And, to do that, you can look at many different things, but one of the things that we've done is, and I call it sort of the gift of self-awareness through using the Myers-Briggs, for instance, personality profile test, that allow us to begin to understand and appreciate others' opinions and vision and where they're coming from. It's very challenging in this environment. You can imagine what it was like in really 7 years ago when we started the bank. The recession really wasn't even talked about.
Right. 2007
January, prime rate was 8.25.
Yep.
Today it's 3.25.
Yep.
So, the unexpected, the things that cause people to, if they're not respectful of each other, to begin to start pointing fingers and blame and that. So I had a lady that I'd known for a long time join us, and I called her the gift. And the gift was she's going to build teams.
Right.
So we started understanding each other. That allowed people to be who they are.
Got you.
They be honest about things. We want candid feedback. We want your honest opinion. I want to be challenged as the CEO. I don't want to hear everybody say, hey, that's a great idea. I have 100 ideas a day. There's
Right.
probably only half of one that's really good.
Right,
So,
right. So really, it's interesting because you're saying that the culture has developed, or the culture has been fostered by making the commitment to the individual. I think along that line, the question I would ask you is, what do you do when you're trying to bring new people into the culture, those who come from other organizations or different backgrounds?
It's a real challenge, particularly when you create an environment that's so different.
Right.
Our space looks different than a bank. In fact, we were very proud when the first client came through the door on July the 9th of 2007 and asked if this was a restaurant. So if, in fact, we're creating a different experience. So what we have to do is get buy-in on the first day.
That's interesting.
Onboarding is really key to the culture. We give a values book out. It's a collection of our family values. And it's not like you would see vision, values, and
Sure.
mission statements and stuff, but it's, number one for us is you get the right person in the right job, you get them doing the right things right now.
Wow.
Now that's a value
Gotcha.
for us, because we have to ask ourselves, in the environment we're in, are you the right person for that job? Now you think maybe that's difficult in a culture, but people respect
Right.
leaders that take action and value action.
Okay.
So for us, bringing people in the first day, and it just talks about being who you are, being authentic. And basically what we set out to do is, on that first day, is to make sure they understand what we were trying to accomplish.
Sure.
And that is, we were trying to create a signature bank here in Nashville. Nashville's bank, if you will.
Right.
First thing I did when I told people about, starting a bank, they said, well, Ron, we don't need another bank. I said, this won't be another bank.
Okay.
We're going to challenge everything you think you know about banks, because we intend to redefine how you experience a bank. Now, that's really important, because if you act the way most bankers would act and try to redefine the experience, you can't do it.
Sure.
So buying into the culture of wowing customers. So we said, look, here's what's happened. We've attracted people that value the creative and innovative spirit of Nashville.
Yep.
They appreciate the difference. They appreciate the fact that we put people with experience in front of them that can solve problems. And as a result of that, they feel valued.
Yep.
And they feel a different experience in the bank.
So what was that like, going to, especially in this niche, the banking industry, where things are maybe a little bit more cut and dry, where you start to see the same thing.
Lots of
What
rules.
was that like for your folks when you sort of said, here's a whiteboard, let's create something new?
That's a great question, because we laugh about that. I thought everybody would love that. Well, as you might imagine, people that typically fit in
Yep.
certain areas of the bank have to have direction, and they follow all the rules.
Right.
What we were asking is to people to operate in a wider box, and we're going to do everything right, and we're going to follow the rules, but let's be innovative and creative in our thought. Many people just couldn't do it. I mean, it was a little uncomfortable.
Sure, I could
till
imagine.
they really believed in the fact that we wanted to change things. And the way we did that is we had a lot of the flipboard paper
Right.
hung up on our walls as we operated off of some $39 Costco tables we got, and some folding chairs we
The
borrowed
fancy
from
stuff.
Yeah, fancy stuff. Borrowed some folding chairs from a church, and we operated on those for a year. So people really appreciated
That's awesome.
the fact that they were included.
Yep.
Not only did we have a diverse workforce, but they were including in being able to go to the flip charts that were hanging on the walls because we didn't have any, material up there except some brick, and they wrote down whatever was on their mind.
That is awesome.
Because we were creating a totally different experience called concierge banking. Now today, 8 years later, people call this concept universal banking. Others are trying to implement this, but
Right.
we had a space that we felt was important. You have to stand out in a cluttered market.
Sure.
So we had concierge banking as our model, which somebody said, "What is that?" And I said, "I don't know yet." But you're going to help me define this.
Right. So in essence, what I hear you saying is that at some level, you all knew you wanted the culture to be one where people felt valued, where people felt a part, but at the same time, you were open to the culture sort of becoming what was going to work best for your customers. So I think the question I would ask you, Ron, is what kind of feedback, kind of anecdotal or otherwise, what kind of feedback have your customers been giving you when they show up at the restaurant, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the amazing things. Another part of culture is making this fun is we have every Tuesday morning what we call family gathering.
Okay.
Family gathering is a place for that very thing. We get feedback from customers that we call them wow stories. So everybody, not everybody can make every family gathering, but 3/4 of the people are usually there on Tuesday morning, 7:50 to 8:10. And that's the place where we talk about the experience somebody had in our bank, and they call out people's names. They send me emails.
Okay.
We get tweets. I probably get 5 or 6 a week, just me. But this is the chance for the people, all of our employees, to speak up. And so it can be internal wows, it can be external wows, but it's an amazing thing when you collect all that feedback from our clients. We've been very fortunate.
That's great.
That we occasionally have a complaint, but deal with that straight up, quick. Responsiveness is important, value in our company.
One of the things we share with our clients all the time is that it is just as important to give people specific, explicit, detailed feedback when they're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's what I hear you saying, that by giving everybody in the organization a chance to recognize good behavior, it sort of amplifies the importance of good behavior, right? So the bank's going, things are growing. Your career involves time with this bank and maybe some others. So my question is, how do you keep the culture going when things aren't so rosy, when things aren't going so well?
Well, if everybody is bought in and they respect each other, it's an amazing thing. When things don't go well, the real leadership and the team really picks each other up.
Okay.
It's been a dynamic that I haven't experienced before, but I think, the one thing that's important is to communicate. So one of the keys in all of this is transparency, communicate as much as you can. You can't tell people always everything.
Sure.
But don't be afraid to be honest and give the feedback necessary. And we really encourage that. So you hear me say over and over again about challenging the status quo.
Right.
Well, think about it. 2007, 8.25 prime, all our projections for a 9% prime at the end of 2007. It was 7.25, 7.5 at end of 2007. So all the plans that we made, 5 years of them, that's what we gave to the FDIC and the state, everything didn't happen the way we planned. On top of that, we had a much deeper and wider recession than ever in the history of the country. So the way we got through that was we stayed focused on what we could control. And there was another sign up, control the controllables. Don't worry about what we can't control. Just pay attention to our clients, make them happy. And, and I kept telling people, my role in this is to guide this thing. I'm in charge of climate control there.
Okay, all right.
So I made sure that every chance that I had, I sat down one-on-one with our senior leaders. We sat down in a room as a team. Family gathering was about how are we going to get through all of this. and we set out an agenda. And it included those things that we could control. And we didn't worry about anything else. And we were growing at about double the pace that we had expected,
Wow.
even through the recession.
That's amazing. So if you were to maybe project out, how do you think the way you all handled that difficult period, how do you think that's going to maybe pay benefits for you down the road as an organization?
Well, I think organizations operate just like people. We were honest when we said this was, we're not going to meet the plan. We had to go to our employees and say, guys, we're not going to be able to give raises.
Right.
We hope you're going to stay with us. We had to really look at every single thing that we could control. The one thing that we did do when gas prices jumped up, we had a lot of people from outside the area. We told them up front, we're going to add $50 to your paycheck to help with the gas. But when this price comes back down, we're going to remove that. And then we'll get back to fundamentals. I had probably half of our employees during that period of time say, that was nice, but I don't need it.
Interesting.
And the others, some took it while they needed it, and before we took it back, they came. But the difference is, and the reason this is going to carry us forward, they believe in the leaders.
Sure.
Our leadership team said, we're going to get you through this, give us a little help. The next year we surprised them gave everybody a $1,000 bonus check
Wow.
that they weren't expecting.
That's great.
It's not one thing that makes this work, it's 1,000 little things. So, like today, we had a chili cook-off at lunch.
Right, you didn't call me, Ron. No, you should let me know about that.
I should have done that.
That's okay.
That was my mistake. But it was fun,
Right.
and last Friday, it was announced that Avenue Bank was in the top 5 best banks to work for by American Banker magazine.
Wow.
And the ABA.
Wow.
Pinnacle Bank was number 2 and Avenue was number 4. 3 banks from Tennessee, First Tennessee was 19th, I believe, in the state, were best places to work for. And I have no idea how many people took the benchmark study. We took it because we wanted to get some data
Sure.
on, how are we doing?
How do you compare, right?
Yeah, how do we compare? We need the feedback. If you're going to have a happy workforce, not everything's happy every day.
That's right.
So we need to know what's going on.
Well, again, what I hear, though, in terms of quote unquote keeping people happy, it's hard for people to be happy if they're not informed.
That's right.
And it's hard for people to be happy if they're not getting an honest response. So to me, those are some of the variables that really seem like they made a big difference for you all.
It is, and I think the other thing is you have to understand that, as you grow in a company, some people fit the role at certain levels and then maybe don't fit the new role that you need to go forward, which is
Great.
the difficult discussions.
Sure.
But back to the other point that you were asking about, I have a quarterly chairman's lunch.
Okay.
We get about 15 or 20 people come. We have a box lunch in the boardroom now, and we sit around and chat. The number one question is, how do you keep this culture as we
Interesting.
get bigger? And how are we going to do that? And my answer has always been, you own the culture. If you own that culture, then it doesn't have to change. So, or at least in my opinion, I think when people are accountable and they feel like they've been included in the process,
You bet.
and they've built something. And I think for us, we had a little easier chore maybe than others that didn't start with a blank sheet of paper.
Sure.
There's a difference in changing cultures or building one.
Sure.
And so I think for the most part, our people see their purpose as a little more noble about what they do. And certainly the millennials are different.
Well, I'll tell you, as a person who works with organizations of all size, different industries, specifically on culture, that is a home run. when the employees, the people on the front line, are asking the chairman, what do we do to keep this? Because people don't ask that question if they don't care, right? So with the diversity of people that you'll have from an age, race, gender standpoint, what have been some of the tougher aspects of keeping that culture in place? What's been tough about it?
Well, actually, I don't think it's been that difficult. We're just fortunate that one of the other things we've done and that makes this inclusive is we have what's known as the Culture Club, not the band.
All right, that's right.
But it's headed by one of our senior guys. I have no idea what they talk about. There is no report out. They make suggestions sometimes. That's a place where all the ideas are cultivated, or it can be.
Sure.
We encourage idea from any source, but that's the place. And it's such a diverse group that gets to give feedback with no notes, no person identified of who said what.
Got you.
And, it really, for me, that's what I was looking for, is I wanted a culture that embraced change and embraced innovation. And the only way I can get that is if I'm willing to take the tough feedback too.
Yep. That's good.
And it's hard sometimes when, as my wife said, Ron, you don't play well with big companies, and you have to be in charge of everything. So I'm saying I get it, but it's you've got to look at what's in the best interest of growing that business, being successful, and certainly a great return for our shareholders. And I think today, more than ever, and I think this is why this is such an interesting and enlightening, I think, for people to talk about culture, which was in the past something that was soft.
That's right.
So the business world's changed.
That's exactly right.
And we've got to change with it, or you're going to be left out.
That you are making a phenomenal point, Ron. One, employees are so much more aware with the different generations in the workforce. You have people who have totally different goals and value sets when it comes to work. Two, customers are so much more aware. That has totally changed the landscape. And obviously, number three, social media has made it so challenging because now anybody can become a person who can quickly expose the good or the bad, right?
That's right.
Right. So let me ask you this. Here at Trevecca, one of the things I know they're focused on is ensuring that the students who leave Trevecca, either from an undergrad or graduate level, but especially the students in the Masters of Organizational Leadership, they want these students to be ready. And one of the things that you and I both know that's important is what you might call strategic thinking, right?
Right.
How do you help people develop strategic thinking, especially if you're looking at that maybe from a university standpoint?
Oh gosh, I think there are a number of things that can happen, and it really can come in all kinds of forms. You can do that as you're building collaborative teams to solve problems in that, because we do that. We have a thing we call the SMART room. The SMART room is where you grab whoever you think can be a solution, which is another value. Don't complain and whine about something. Be a solution and bring it out.
Got you.
So when we were starting the bank, one day I was really busy, and there was about 5 guys in a conference room about the size of the bathroom. And I had breakfast. I was coming by there and I said, guys, I need all this kind of data. And this guy was with me. I said, look, I don't have any answers, but I'm going to give it to the guys over here in the SMART room.
Right.
Well, when we started building out our space, a couple of them came to me and said, where's the SMART room?
That's great.
I said, I didn't know what that was. So it informed me. But I think it's the same thing in the college environment is, where's that room you can just have that brainstorming, pull out. Don't complain about, the things that are going on around you. Figure out something that you can do to be the solution. I think the best is good hands-on experience.
Sure.
Is finding ways to get internships, finding ways to bring business leaders on campus to, answer questions, be part of panels, encourage the students to read things that are interesting to them.
Sure.
When we started the bank, the first thing that was happening, people didn't understand why. I mean, it was just exploding for us. We were growing at $25 million a month.
Wow.
And I said, okay, here's the thing that's happening. I said, have y'all read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point? Very few people had read it.
Right.
So we had book club. We gathered up, talked about it, helped them understand the dynamics. And several of them went on to read David and Goliath, went on to read The Outliers.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So we really encourage that kind of work, and I think finding some of those books that are really relevant, not the business of the university technical books, I guess, if you will, but those things that the business community's looking at that challenge your thinking. I think some of the other things we've read is the book on creating customer evangelist is another really very good book because once we started creating these customers, they really became fans and of the bank, and they became another sales force for us.
Right.
So it was really cool. Some of our leaders enjoy sports, so we've had some books that we've read with John Wooden's book on leadership.
Yep.
I think that was a good one. The Levity Effect is a new book that's out there that's about having fun and how you make that work in the workplace. So I would really encourage that kind of exposure to things and getting more people on campus.
Sure. So in essence, you're saying that what would work well for MOL students is that they be exposed to the exact same things that today's leaders are being exposed to, but also sort of be in environments where they can actually put some things at play. So how do you foster strategic thinking at Avenue Bank? How do you help ensure people aren't just following orders once the order's been given, but they continue to think strategically?
Yeah, we just named a chief strategy officer. In fact, I think it's it's the chief marketing and strategy officer.
Okay.
I believe that when you have to understand your competition. So we've set up a very structured way we review our current strategic plan, and our executive leadership team meets every Thursday. And so we've broken down our strategy into 4 elements.
Okay.
And the senior leadership team talks about these every week.
Gotcha.
So it's not about just building a strategic plan, it's about the execution of that strategic plan. And in fact, that's what, when you really look at it, a great culture really shapes the strategy of your company.
Exactly.
And, I do think that if you can create that environment where you welcome innovation, you welcome new ideas, we have a very specific way we look at our competitors. We're not trying to be everything to all people either. We know what our niches are, we know what we're doing, and we stay very focused.
That's good. Ron, as you've been talking about the culture at Avenue, I'm really hearing some really interesting things. On one hand, I hear that there are a lot of processes that you all use on a regular basis to sort of keep people talking, keep people thinking, but I also hear some sort of surprise elements that you all offer to sort of keep people happy, and I like that term. So how have you really seen the culture and strategy come together at Avenue?
Well, I think it goes back to trying to create that environment where people can be who they are and be successful in that environment. One of the things that we did early on, because Nashville's Arts and Business Council
Right.
decided that they thought we ought to have a corporate band challenge. And this one, you wouldn't think this is that key, but when Connie Valentine came to me and said, Ron, do you think that would work? I said, well, Connie, if you do it, Avenue Bank will form a band and we're going to rock the house.
That is classic.
Oh my gosh. I didn't think there was a chance that they would do it, so we didn't have a band.
Yeah.
So she called me 2 weeks later, says, hey, Ron, we're going to do that corporate band challenge.
Right.
I said, well, we're getting our band together.
So we will be ready.
We're going to see who we got, and we were fortunate we had a lot of talented people. But that little effort, which
Yep.
was something was a surprise to me, and I didn't really think about what this would do culturally. But our band competed that first year, came in second. Second year came in second. And the third year we performed, we won it and played the CMA Festival.
That is awesome.
But that started the other piece of tying things together for us. That was an activity that everybody wanted to know. When are the Hummingbirds? That's what
your
it's
group,
called.
okay.
Well, when are the Hummingbirds playing? You know, we ended up doing a thing for Michael W. Smith over at Rocketown, which was an event where the talented, and I've just drawn a blank on his name.
Singer.
No, it was Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, I'll say this again. And so we did a thing for Michael W. Smith at Rocketown.
Right.
And we opened for Jeff Foxworthy one night with a phenomenal, crowd there. We did something for the Tennessee Golf Association and the PGA when they honored Joe Taggart into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So it brought us into totally different environments, and it sort of connected that having fun, and the business side of that was there we were, not necessarily promoting
Yep.
Avenue, but being a part of this community, giving back. It's expensive to put that on.
Sure.
We raised money for a number of different not-for-profit organizations. We played for the Cancer Foundation, and we played for the Lymphoma Foundation too. It's been a really way to give back to the community that was unusual.
Oh,
so when you start, and on top of that, we built a new what we call vertical in our company for not-for-profits, where we concentrate on the business of not-for-profit.
That is genius.
So it's worked out as, sometimes things just work out.
Yeah, that's a good story,
Yeah.
Ron, because again, what I feel like you just said is that all in one, you've got an initiative that is increasing employee morale, that is, in essence, attracting employees. Man, if there's ever a bank I might want to work, it would be a bank that would have the Hummingbirds with Michael W. Smith at the CMAs. You're also putting your footprint out in front of the community in a non-hard sell way.
Right.
But to your point, but you're also positively impacting the community. So going back to that initial question, even around culture and strategy, I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that.
I don't know a better example of tying those things together. It's so important to continue to reinforce the vision that you have and to talk. Communication will always show up on every benchmark.
Sure.
You don't communicate enough.
Sure.
And you will never communicate enough.
Right.
So that's the reason you communicate and tell that story, then you tell it again, and then just tell it one more time.
Right. That's right. Well, Ron, this has really been awesome. I have really enjoyed talking with you. If there was maybe one nugget you would want to leave folks with as it relates to corporate culture, building a winning culture, especially with all the great stories from Avenue Bank, what would that be?
I think the one thing you have to realize is that a great culture doesn't happen by accident. It's very intentional. And you have to love people and be able to say, I love these people. Be passionate about their success and creating that environment where they can be successful.